When adventure bikes are launched, you get bombarded with manufacturer videos like this, with idyllic remote locations, beautiful backdrops, mountains, desert roads, and exquisite scenery.
But the reality, of course, is that they're going to be more used on roads like this, and this, and this, and this. Even a bit of this. Hi, Tony here, welcome back to the channel, and this is my review of the Honda Africa Twin. So what's new with the Africa Twin, and particularly the Adventure Sports? Now there are two models in the range. There's the CRF 1100L. I wouldn't call it the base model, but that's got a more off-road focus and has slightly different specs to this. The Adventure Sport is more of a touring machine, bigger tank, few more toys and goodies, and I'll concentrate on this bike obviously. Now I have to admit to be an Africa Twin fan. From the original XRV 650 that was launched in '88 to the 750 that came along in '90. Fantastic looking bikes, a great heritage in terms of Dakar stuff. So when the new Africa Twin came along in 2016, I was immediately kind of smitten by its looks. Okay, so what's changed? Well, effectively it is a completely new bike. It's a new chassis, things like the use of a CRF 450 style aluminium rear swing arm. They've upped the capacity as well. It's now at 1084cc. They've put a longer stroke crank in it to give that extra cc, and it's an absolute peach of a motor. I'm used to riding my Tiger. I've got used to that triple engine, and I've got used to that relatively flat torque curve. So to jump on something like this, whilst it won't rip your arms off, the low down torque is noticeable, and actually I really enjoy riding it and having that lower grunt on it, which arguably makes this potentially a better bike off-road, but that's another story. It's still quite a heavy machine. Dry weight on the Adventure Sports model I think is 238 kilograms. I'll check and put the right numbers on the screen. The more off-roady focused version is a little bit lighter, but this one does have a big 24.8 litre fuel tank. When I filled it up, I can see the range meter pushing up over 300 miles. In reality, I don't know if that's feasible, but one thing you won't be doing very often on this bike is visiting the petrol station. The bike looks fantastic. I think this tricolour red, white and blue with the gold wheels is an absolutely beautiful colour scheme, and as you would expect from Honda, it's very nicely put together. Now, despite the weight that I talked about earlier on, once you're on the bike it does feel very nimble. The seat's very comfortable. It's quite narrow, so it means getting your feet down is quite easy, and the bike comes with two seat heights. The lower seat height is 850mm. You can raise that to 870mm, and you can do that just by adjusting the seat that comes on the bike, so that's nice to be able to do that. There is a low seat option which I think takes it down to 825, or high seat option up to 895 depending on what you want. Now I'm 5'10", 32 inside leg. On the lower setting here I can flat foot this bike very easily, which makes it very manageable, and it is very composed on the road. It's got a nice weighty solid planted feel, but at the same time it feels nimble and flexible. All of the controls are light. The clutch is super light. The gearbox is slick. This is a standard gearbox, not the DCT version, and this isn't the ES version with the electronic suspension. This has just got the standard suspension on it, again, which I found to be very good. I haven't had to play with it. I haven't felt the need to play with those controls so far. It seems to work pretty well straight out of the box. Very comfortable ride, and already I've covered a couple of hundred miles on this bike, and it's the sort of bike that you want to jump on and just ride all day. Decent handguard coverage, nice big wide bars. There's plenty of room on the seat to be able to shift your weight right forward into the tank or sit it back, so I don't have any problems with it being uncomfortable over time. It's just a fantastic place to be. Now, with all the changes to the engine, one thing I think that Honda have got spot on, and this does sound quite un-Honda-like, is that exhaust note. For a stock exhaust, I think it sounds absolutely fantastic. And the other thing about this bike, people may look at it and go, well, it's only 100 horsepower and it's quite a heavy bike. I don't think that creates any problems whatsoever on this. 100 horsepower is more than enough. The delivery from that torque is absolutely fantastic, and I never once found myself wishing that I had more power. One thing I have noticed on this bike is that the side stand seems to be a little bit short. So you do have to be a little bit careful where you're putting it down. If you put it down on somewhere where you've got a bit of camber, you can have a few problems because the bike leans over a little bit disconcertingly. I have no issues that it's actually going to fall over, but it certainly does feel a bit strange. Now, there are a whole host of electronics available on this bike. Now, a lot of people, again, of reviews I've read and a lot of the press are saying overly complicated controls, not intuitive. Actually, I've not found it too difficult. Once you actually spend some time just looking at how these controls work, it comes second nature. And the reality is actually that you don't always spend a lot of time doing things on the fly. Most of the riding I've been doing on this, I will test it in other modes, but most of the riding I've been doing on this has been done in the tour mode. Flicking from mode to mode is really simple on the bike. You've just got a button here that you press and it changes. If you want to start messing around with the 7 levels of traction control and the wheelie control and everything else that goes along with that, then yeah, it can be a little bit more confusing. But the reality is I don't know how many people that own this are going to be trying to mess around with that on the go. They're going to put it in a mode for whatever kind of riding they're doing and they're going to get going. One thing that I do think is a really nice addition to this bike, and again I'll touch on that later on, but that's the integration of the Apple CarPlay. That's worked seamlessly if you're an iPhone user, of course. I put my iPhone in, it connected really easily, and I've been able to have music playing. I've been able to get notifications of text that get read to you through your intercom. I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I must admit I haven't really been too worried by that. But the use of sat-nav, so things like Waze, which will work on that big TFT screen. And of course, when all of this screen is being used for your sat-nav, you've still got the digital display below, which shows your speed and your gear selector and a couple of other bits and pieces. So that's a nice throwback to the older Africa Twins, and it makes it very useful. And I think the addition of this Apple CarPlay is absolute genius from Honda. I know Triumph have got their Bluetooth module, which gives you GoPro control and sat-nav and music and phone control, but we're still waiting on that Bluetooth module to come through, particularly for the Tiger, and we've been waiting a while for that. And the fact that this uses the whole screen, I think is a real good step up. There are a couple of niggles on the bike. No bike is perfect. One of the issues that I have found with this is that screen. This screen is in its lowest setting. I'm 5'10" with the seat in its lowest position. Although I can just see over the top of that, top of the screen does sort of get in your eye line a little bit. You get used to it, you start looking through it, and you don't really pay much attention to it once you've been riding for a while. If you're not used to riding with a tall screen, it can be a bit disconcerting. And the only issue I have with the tall screen and vision is when it gets dirty. If you're riding in the rain or with muddy conditions and that screen gets dirty, obviously it gets harder to see through. The more off-road focused version has a much shorter screen. At the moment there isn't an alternative screen for this. I'm pretty sure Honda will bring an alternative shorter screen version to this, and if they don't, I'm sure the aftermarket manufacturers will soon be on. It's a simple sort of 6 Allen bolt fitting. I guess I haven't looked at it obviously because this is not my bike, but I guess You could just take the screen off completely, because you've got quite a nice sort of finish to the front there. You've got a shield over the top of the Speedo and stuff, so you could just take the shield off if you wanted that. If you're riding it more off-road, or in the summer you want a bit more air blowing through you. But overall, the protection of that screen is really good, and the weather protection of this bike is brilliant. When I rode it back from Honda, it was raining, as it always seems to do whenever I ride anything back from Honda, and this screen, combination of the screen and the big wide tank at the bottom here, gives you great protection for your body and your legs. And I got out of it through a pretty heavy rain shower without getting too wet at all. So again, adds to this credentials as a really nice touring bike. Well, so far I've ridden this bike on motorways, on A roads, on B roads, a couple of dirt tracks. I haven't taken it anywhere particularly gnarly. The tyres are more road focused. They're the Bridgestone Batlax AX41s, nice tyres, sitting on those beautiful gold laced rims, tubeless tyres, which is a nice thing to have. Again, there'll be arguments over whether tubeless are better or not. The reality is, if you're not carrying a plug kit or a spare inner tube, doesn't matter what tyres you've got or what inner tube you've got, if you haven't got the kit to repair it, you're just as knackered regardless. Arguably, I suppose, tubed tyres deflate quicker. There you go, slow speed manoeuvrability, really nice. And everything's just really light on this bike. All of the controls, clutch, brakes, shifter, steering, great place to be. The good thing about this bike as well is it remembers what setting you're in. So whereas some bikes, if you power it off, you've got to go through the process of setting everything else up again. With this bike, it remembers everything, even the heated grips and stuff. So whatever you last had the bike set in, when you switch ignition on and start up, it jumps straight back into those settings. So that's a really nice touch, which I know can be a bit of a pain on other bikes. But it is an absolutely perfect, ideal all-round bike if you like this style, and I do. You know that I like classic bikes, you know that I like retro and custom bikes. I'm also partial to an adventure bike. I don't know what it is about them, I just like the look. I like the upright riding position, sitting up high, being able to see what's going on. I drive as an everyday car, a Land Rover, so I guess it's kind of in my DNA to have that kind of roughy tufty outdoors type machine.
It is sorted. It's gripped. Let's off-road.
As you can probably tell, I'm quite enamoured by this bike. So I'm here at 3,000 revs in third gear, 37 miles an hour. I can wind the throttle on and I get a really nice pickup, and you don't have to venture up in the upper ranges of the rev limit. The torque all comes in a little bit lower down. I don't know if I'm going to say that I prefer it to my Tiger. It's different, maybe it's the novelty, but I am really enjoying it. You do have to stir the gearbox a little bit more. Obviously the torque curve on my Tiger is much flatter and much longer, so on long stretches of road I can leave it in third and go from anywhere from 20 miles an hour to 80 miles an hour and just ride it like an automatic. There's lots of nice touches. You've got a 12 volt power supply on the left hand side, and you've got a USB charger on the right hand side. That's handy obviously for connecting your phone to the system for the CarPlay. It's got a nice rubber waterproof cover that goes over the top of it, and they've even built a channel into the bottom of that so the cable sticks out with no problem. So nice touches. Again, one of the drawbacks, one of the negatives for me on this is that if you want to use the Apple CarPlay and you need to have your phone plugged in, which isn't an issue. I've got mine mounted on the quad lock here. I've got a cable that I can plug in, so it's being charged, it connects straight in. I don't have to worry too much about Bluetooth, but the system does want you to use a Bluetooth headset. And that's the only issue I've found with it. Now I'm guessing that's for predominantly safety reasons. The idea is that they don't want you doing too much. The touchscreen when you're riding, a lot of the functionality gets taken away. You can do it from the controls here, but a lot of that functionality gets taken away when you're riding. And again, I think it's safety. The Bluetooth headset connection, which you need to get Apple CarPlay to work, I think is one step too far, because there might be occasions where you just want to plug your phone in and you want to have your sat nav on there, but you're not interested in getting voice commands into your headset. You just want to use the map as a reference, and you can't do that. Obviously, you don't have to have a Bluetooth headset to do this if you've got Apple AirPods or Bluetooth headphones. That's one drawback to that system, but other than that, it works very well. Whoa, idiot. The handling in this bike is really sweet. It's just confidence inspiring. The brakes are fantastic, nice feel on the brakes, good bit of modulation, but if you need to bring yourself to a halt, they will do that pretty quickly. Not too much dive on the front, and that's for somebody like me that weighs over 15 stone, so with all my gear on, I'm significantly heavier. Could this bike tempt me? Well, I don't know. I haven't yet ridden the new Tiger 900, so that may change my view a little bit. But in terms of an all-round machine, you can't really fault this bike. As I say, the only niggles I can find really are the screen, the fact that you need a headset to get the Apple CarPlay to work, the rubber bungs in the footrest. I take those out because when they get wet they get quite slippery, but you can take those out and just have a metal peg underneath. It's just got such a beautiful soundtrack to it as well. Yeah, it almost sounds a bit like a V-twin. The engine noise is beautiful. I really am enjoying that. A lot of that's down to the cross-plane crank, I guess. I did find a little bit of vibration from the foot pegs when I first picked it up, but that seems to have gone away now, so I don't know if that was just a case of the tyres scrubbing in, or the road surface I was on, I don't know, but I'm on rough country roads here now, and I can't say that I've had any real issues with that. But there you go, the torque is just effortless if you want to get past anybody. I really don't see that you'd need any more power than this, and I know people will be going, well yeah, but you'd always want more power, and you know, 160 horsepower from the KTM or the big Ducatis. I'm not doubting that they're great fun. For me, I just don't feel that I would need it. This is a bit like the Tiger. 100 horsepower for this sort of bike is perfect. It's just such a nice relaxed ride. But if you want to kick it on, then you can kick it on quite nicely. I think I may have some issues with a pixelated screen though. There's a problem with this when it, you know, occasionally the screen gets pixelated, makes it hard to read. What else can I talk about while I'm thinking about it? Well, the mirrors, really nice mirrors. Not particularly adventure-y, they're more like they would be on a road bike, but they're really nicely positioned. I've got great visibility from them. This does have daytime running lamps, so much like I said in the CB650 review, the indicators are on all the time in amber. Initially I wasn't too keen on that because I thought it may look like you're indicating at first glance. People may look up and think, oh, that bike's indicating, and they'll pull out. I don't really know if that's the case or not. If anything, having the amber running lights makes people give you a second look, and having the IMU on this, which gives you the cornering traction control and cornering ABS, also give you cornering lights. You've got little LEDs under the headlights. On dark roads, as you lean into a bend, it lights up the inside of the bend. There we go, look at that, perfect. Just when it gets to the point where you think, I can't see in that corner, and the wheel in it, it just kicks more light in. And the other side, brilliant. But I think this engine note could actually get quite addictive. Now it's always difficult when you do reviews of bikes like this, because nobody really makes a bad bike now, and it's all subjective. It's all about what you like. If you don't like the style of adventure bikes, you're never going to like this bike. So you kind of have to take a pinch of salt with these, and when you're watching these reviews, you have to remember that it's only people's individual opinions that they're talking about. As I've said, I'm a fan of adventure bikes. I like that chunky off-road look, and this is a perfect mix of tourer and off-roader. It's quite happy scratching around the lanes here, but it's horses for courses. For an all-round bike that does a bit of everything, this is hard to beat. It's beautifully put together. I'm hoping that it will have the Honda build quality and longevity and integrity. It's not a cheap bike. If you take the Adventure Sports model, this starts at about 14.5, 14.6, something like that. By the time you start speccing it up, you can get very close to £20,000. Now I've had to talk about what it's like, let's just have a look around the bike and look at some of that lovely detailing.
Now, to me, the Africa Twin 1100 Adventure Sport is a really nice looking bike. As I've said, particularly I do like this colour scheme. You're probably not seeing it at its best. I have been riding it a lot, and it is getting a bit mucky, but arguably these sort of bikes look better when they're a bit messy like this. Now, this is coming up for 500 miles that I've done on the bike, so I've got to know it quite well, and I thought I'd just give you a quick look around. There's those really nice gold tubeless rims laced to the outside. You can see the fork guards on the mud guard do a good job of keeping the crap off of those stanchions. Gold forks, I'm not necessarily a fan of those on a lot of bikes, but it kind of works on this with the wheels. Twin rads, bash guard that comes as standard. There's that peachy 1084cc engine and that fantastic sounding exhaust. You can see the seat is in its lowest position. It can be moved up just by adjusting the stock seat, which is a nice move. And the Adventure Sports comes with this rack on the back, which has actually proved to be very handy. I've strapped Krieger OS 32 pannier across this, so if you want to strap any bags to it, that's really useful. And as per the previous bike, you've got these sections here where you can clip the panniers on and not need to have any external bars. As I mentioned, quite a narrow seat, which does give you plenty of room to get your feet down, and you sit down inside the bike with that big bulbous tank in front of you, giving you great protection. It does lean over quite a lot on that stand. I think the stand could do with being maybe an inch taller. Nice touches like the little blue bar end here. There's the adjustments for the fork settings, and a very clear and easy to read dash. So it is a real do-it-all bike. There may be bikes that are better in really gnarly off-road conditions, but for me, the overall package makes this an absolutely fantastic bike. I hope this review has been useful. I've tried to keep it as short as I can, but obviously there's quite a lot to talk about, and I wanted to cover off as much as I could. If you've got any questions, you know where to put those in the comment section down below. Hopefully I'll get a chance to try the standard version of this bike and give a comparison, but as you can probably tell, I really like this bike, and if you're in the market for a do-it-all adventure bike, I'd really highly suggest getting along to your local Honda dealer and giving one a test ride. Until next time then, thanks for watching, take care, ride safe, and I'll see you soon. Bye.